I bought my very first duplex while I was an active duty sergeant and totally broke in the Marine Corps. That property was zero down, no PMI, cash flowed on day one while I lived in it for free. And I was able to do it with the help of my favorite military benefit, the VA loan, which I'm going to teach you how to use right now. Now, right off the bat, I want to just kill a few myths that I hear about the VA loan. One common one being that you have to wait till you're out of the military to use the VA loan. Absolutely not. You can use it while you're active duty. You can use it while you're a veteran. You can use it at both instances on two separate cases, because you can also use it more than once, which is another myth I hear all the time. Now, there are some stipulations to how you use it, but you can use it multiple times. I have a friend who's actually had 4 VA loans out at the same time, and I've had multiple people who bought a house, sold it, bought a house, sold it, or bought a house, bought another house. You know, there's millions of ways to use the VA loan. It is absolutely incredible. So if someone tells you you can only use it once, run. Now, in order to be eligible for this, you have to have served 90 days on active duty, or if you're a reservist, you have to finish your 6-year contract, or 90 days on Title 10 orders. In either of those situations, you are now eligible to utilize the VA loan, as long as you do not get out with a dishonorable or bad conduct discharge that takes away your benefits. As another piece of this myth, you don't actually have to even be married to use the VA loan. You don't even need to have BAH. I have a friend named Jabbar Adasada, where I did a podcast with him, who bought his very first duplex as a single corporal living in the barracks in the Paris Island area for the Marine Corps, and he was able to do this with no BAH. Now, I will tell you that kind of depends on the market, but it is doable. So I really want to open your eyes here to, like, whether you have BAH, or you're single, or you're married, or you're active duty, or you're a reservist, or you're a veteran, you can use the VA loan. And this is my favorite benefit for service members and vets. And I want to help you understand how to use it correctly, because this can change the trajectory of your life like it did me. Now, the VA loan is incredibly powerful. So before I jump in, one last little myth here. If a lender tells you you cannot do something with the VA loan, you should ask them to show you where it says that in the VA guidelines. And the reason for this is simple. The VA itself has very open, kind of gray area, loose guidelines for the VA loan. For example, the VA actually has no minimum credit score requirement. The VA doesn't care what your debt to income ratio is. The VA doesn't actually state you have to live in the property for a year. But every lender is going to have an overlay, meaning they have their own guidelines. Think of it like the UCMJ. In the UCMJ, it says, hey, a commander can make UCMJ requirements stricter. For example, the UCMJ might authorize you to wear a beanie cover, and your unit might say, dude, it's 80 degrees outside. Don't wear a freaking beanie in your uniform. Or if not everybody has a beanie, you don't get to wear a beanie, or you don't get to wear your gloves in uniform because I think it looks unprofessional, or whatever. But they can't make the UCMJ less strict. So if the UCMJ says no tattoos on your hand, your unit can't be like, I don't care, get a tattoo on your hand. But they could say, nope, the UCMJ approves this beanie, but our unit does not wear beanies. So they can make the law stricter, but not looser. That's how the VA and the overlays work. And so if you find a lender who's telling you, no, you can't do XYZ, you're going to want to ask them if that's in the guidelines. And if not, you're going to want to go talk to another lender, shop another lender, and ask them. Another common example of this is if a lender tells you that you have to have 2 years experience as a landlord to use the VA to buy a duplex. And that's false. Now, there are some stipulations in there for why they may say that, but the guidelines just say reasonable likelihood of success as a landlord. And so you could hire a property manager, you could articulate that you have the reasonable likelihood of success, or you could just go find a different lender. So if you understand the overlay process and you can ask that question, you can find out very quickly, is this a VA requirement, or could I shop a different lender and have them help me? So there's a lot of different myths, and I've got an entire presentation on this. At the end of the video, I'll link to it for you, and I'll drop it up here. And I really want to help you with this, but we're going to focus on what you can do in this video, because it's infinitely more powerful than the little nuanced things that you need to worry about for myths. Okay, the very first one, and most people know this already, but it's the zero down. Now, zero down doesn't necessarily mean zero money out of pocket. You're still going to want to budget 1 to 3% of your purchase price for closing costs and fees, like your title inspection, your homeowner's inspection, your termite inspection. But also, you can get the seller, the agent, or the lender to credit all of those costs to you at closing so that you don't have to come out of pocket for them. So it's very common that you could be zero money out of pocket, or even get a check when you close on your first house. It's just not guaranteed, so you should buffer that 3% just to be safe. But the VA allows you to go zero down because the VA is guaranteeing 25% of that mortgage. So that means that if you default on the loan, the bank will have lent you $100,000, but they are only on the hook for $75,000 in risk. The VA covers the other $25,000 if you default, which allows the bank to give you a little bit looser lending and borrowing requirements. Now, also, there's no PMI. Generally, when you don't have 25% down to put on a house or 20% down to put on a house, you have to pay for what's called private mortgage insurance. And this is very, very, very expensive. The VA doesn't require that because the VA is guaranteeing that 25%, so they are acting as your insurance. Now, in return for that, we do have a funding fee. People get upset about the funding fee because it's like 2.15% of the purchase price. It's rolled into the loan. But the math on that comes out to about, on a 7% mortgage, over 30 years, on a $100,000 house, it comes out to about $14.30 a month, whereas PMI would be about $100 a month. So it is 14, maybe 15% the cost of PMI. And if you are a Purple Heart recipient or 10% disability, it's waived for life. So it's not that big a deal because a lot of us have a 10% rating and some of us, unfortunately, have a Purple Heart. Another huge benefit to this is that your interest rates with the VA loan are almost always going to be better. Now, there's a couple of different reasons for that. It's beyond the scope of this video, but the VA loan interest rates are almost always better because of the way that the credit score is factored in and because they don't add an extra bit of interest for when you buy a duplex, a triplex, or fourplex like a conventional loan would. And also because the VA is backing your loan, which means that you're a safer borrower to the bank. I want to just briefly touch on my favorite strategy with the VA loan, which is house hacking. And there are multiple ways that you can house hack, but the two most common are if you buy like a 5-6 bedroom single family house and you live in one bedroom and rent the other bedrooms out to other single service members and vets, or you buy a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, and you live in one unit and you rent the rest of the units out. And whether you do either of these strategies, either the roommates or the tenants in the other units, they subsidize your mortgage. And so if you were going to pay $2,000 a month to own that home, and you rent those 3 units out for $1,000 a piece, that's $3,000. Your mortgage was $2,000. Now you get to save your BAH and you get to live for free in this house. That's huge, and that's exactly what I did. My very first duplex cost me $79,900. Now I know, but that was in 2015 in Missouri, so that was reasonable. All in on that property, including some repairs, I put about $4,000 into it, and while I lived in it, it cost me about $100 a month out of pocket. Now, I had been paying $600 a month in rent, so $100 a month saved me $500 a month to move into this house, plus I got to save the rest of my $850 a month BAH. The day I moved out of this house, it began to pay me $250 a month. For the entire 7 years that I owned it, it paid me $200 to $400 a month. And when I sold this property, I made $90,000 because I sold it for $165,000 and I'd already paid off a bunch of the mortgage. And I was able to net about $93,000 on the $4,000 I'd put into this house. And that's without doing any real work for the most part because I hired a property manager to deal with the property. You could even make more money than that if you just did the work yourself. Now, for some other great bonuses that make this loan product even better, because the house hacking strategy, I've got a ton of content on, and I could go on and on and on and on and on. It's the single fastest way to change the trajectory of your finances because your housing is usually about 33% of your income. That's like the national average. And so if you're spending 33% of your income on a place to live, and suddenly you're able to save all that money and invest it, it will vastly change the way that your life looks and the timeline for you achieving financial freedom. In fact, I would argue it can save you 30, 40 years off your journey to financial freedom off this one move of living for free. I can show you the math on that, but I'm not trying to bore you on this video. I'm trying to enjoy vacation and make the point. Now, for a couple other points, the funding fee, we already talked about that being waived if you're 10% disability or Purple Heart. The closing costs, you can get those factored in and paid for by up to 4% of the purchase price by the seller and also by your agents and lenders. You can use the VA loan more than once when you PCS, when you sell a house, when you refinance a house into a conventional. There are a couple of different stipulations for how you recoup your entitlement and be able to reuse your entitlement to buy those large properties again. Similarly, there's actually no limit to how big a house you can buy, purchase price wise, on your first time with the VA loan. I have a friend who bought a $2.5 million house, 0 down. He was about to put 20% down. We had a conversation, and instead of stroking a check for $500,000 at closing, he put down 0, walked into the house, got to invest the $500,000 elsewhere. If you're deploying, you can put all your, and you live in, like, let's say you do a fourplex, you buy a fourplex, you live in the fourplex, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. My tenants are like helping me live. It's great. And then you get orders to deploy. You can take all your stuff, put it in a storage unit, rent out the 4th unit that you were living in, go on the deployment, you're collecting BAH, and your house is cash flowing, and when you come back, you just move into the fourplex again. Or if it's been more than a year, you just buy another one. And another hack here is that you can actually use the VA loan to build a single family house. Like you can buy 5 acres and build a house, buy 10 acres and build a house. It's called the one-time close. Or you can use it to renovate a property, whether that's a 1, 2, 3, or 4 unit property. You can buy a fixer-upper, renovate it, and then move into it, and you've forced appreciation, almost like a flip. We call this live-in flip, because you do have to occupy it as your primary residence still. but you get to move into it with that equity in a newly renovated house. And then when you do sell it, you get the equity, or when you rent it, you get more cash flow because it's newly renovated. Now, analysis paralysis is one of the biggest issues I see with service members and vets. They want to try to time the perfect time to buy. Like they try to time the market. So they're like, well, when do I want to buy the house? And I'm telling you right now, in real estate, the old adage, time in the market beats timing the market almost every time. In real estate, as long as you can hold on to the property, in the long run, you will be okay. And so if the house pays for you to live in it, then you had to pay to live somewhere anyway. And now instead of that, you're getting paid to live, you're getting to live for free. That makes it very easy to hold on to the property. So even if you bought at the quote wrong time, you can still make that mortgage payment, and you have to live somewhere anyway. And so it makes it way easier for you to hold on to this property, which means in the long run, when the market comes back up, you'll be fine. Also, living in the house gives you additional benefits as far as the loan, your tenant's rights, your taxes, all the stuff. Oh, and if you just wait all day, all the time for perfect environment, it's not going to happen. Like, we are not going to see under 3% interest rates again, maybe in our entire life. The market is going to do this. You're never going to know exactly when it's perfect to buy. And so if you can find a million reasons not to begin investing, it only takes one reason to start, and that will compound over time. One of my favorite quotes when it comes to talking about this is a Henry Ford quote that just says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that really rings home with me when it comes to stuff like investing. If you are saying it's a scam and you can't do it, then you're most likely right. It's not going to work for you because you're not going to put in the effort. But if you find the mentality of, instead of saying I can't, you say how can I, and you look for solutions, you're solution and opportunity oriented over excuse oriented and victim mentality, you will succeed in this. I have no doubt. Being a problem solver, looking for opportunities, being an optimist, and staying consistent in your journey to financial freedom will help you achieve it. We've helped hundreds, if not thousands of people achieve financial freedom and get into their first houses. We've helped veterans buy hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate with the VA loan, and I would love to help you. And so in closing, you don't need to wait till you're a vet. You don't need to wait till you're married. You just have to make smart moves now. And even if those smart moves are just educating yourself by watching videos like this, that's great. Save some money, get good at your finances, educate yourself, and then pull the trigger sooner rather than later. Not on a dumb property, don't just jump at it, but just don't wait for perfect, or you'll never get started. Now, if you really want to deep dive on how to do this, click on this video right here. It is a complete 1-hour presentation I give for free on how to use your VA loan to house hack and begin your journey to financial freedom, including how to start scaling out of it. And I would love to help point you in the right direction. That video is the best one I've got on this. And you can also click this QR code right here and download a free copy of my best-selling book, The No BS Guide to Military Life, which is everything that I wish I'd learned when I first joined the military. So I hope you got something out of this video. Comment your favorite tip, or if you've got a question that I didn't answer, comment that down below and I will try to answer it either in the comment or in a future video. And subscribe if you want to learn how to go from military to millionaire like I did. And share this on your Facebook or with some of your friends if you think that this could be beneficial information to anyone else, because the VA loan is an amazing benefit. And I'd love to help you live the life I'm currently getting to enjoy, because boy, has I been blessed by this real estate journey. Love you guys. Have a great day. Semper Fi.